And welcome back. So, as I said, we're gonna just dive into all this stuff. A lot of information again. Just picked out this stuff quickly from last week. This episode should be a little bit shorter than the other ones, but thank you again. Really appreciate all you guys' support and stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But we're about to really dive into, will AI take your job? And put more potential harm between how AI is going to be affecting jobs and more other stuff. So let's just dive into that and see how all of that's going to work. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Helps out the algorithm. And let's see what they have to say.
Where do you sit in the optimist versus pessimistic side of AI application?
I'm net positive over the medium to long term. Over the short term, though, it's going to be a little bit tricky because what we see is AI enabling automation of labor that isn't just manual and routine, but cognitive and non-routine. Is it's wiping out a lot of jobs, the likes of which, like my father, who was a lawyer, the kind of work my father did as a lawyer ought to be 99% done by software at this point. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a bad thing for people later in their careers who aren't going to be able to pivot necessarily. From a statistical standpoint, it's not going to be as bad as one might imagine, the impact of AI on labor. But over the short term, we're going to see some automation of a lot of white collar jobs.
The interesting dynamic right now, Alec, if you look at the entirety of the news flow.
I Before they continue that, I actually kind of like the way he mentioned that. So jobs like that, for example, he said his dad is a lawyer, and most of what he does is can be automated by some kind of software and things. The point of stuff is to make jobs and things easier to where we can still have that work within it as well too. So, like perfect example, he is still going to be able to go to court and do a lot of the stuff and things, but a lot of the research, the paperwork, and all of that other stuff, saying he can save so much more time just using software and things. Now, if you're a lawyer that's billable by hours, that might be negative impact because you can't charge people as much as you used to charge back in the day or whatever. For each hour that you bill somebody, you might be starting to either, you're going to be able to do either one of two things. You're going to raise your rates per hour because you want to keep that same kind of lifestyle and income. So how many people are going to stay with you for higher rates, but less hours of work getting done, when it used to be the same amount but more hours? People like lower numbers averaging out over higher numbers. So, and that's just how it is over there. And then another thing is, like, it just makes your job so much easier. If you're able to find a good common ground on stuff, then I feel like it's going to work out just fine as far as using it. But there are ways and advantages that you have to think of stuff like that when it comes to billable hours, hours working, and stuff like that. If you're not on salary, it's impacting you so much more, and you have to think about how you're going to be able to give those rates out appropriately to people. So,
Is layoffs and cost cuts at bigger companies are in part being carried out to free up funds to invest in AI, ironically. Does the earlier stage ecosystem of all these startups that say we're using AI to automate or make more efficient a specific function feel any of that? You know, the reallocation of capital from, say, headcount to a new AI tool?
Well, yes and no. And first of all, let's have some, intellectual honesty around a lot of the drama around layoffs. Unemployment is really, really low in the United States right now. Some of the layoffs that are getting lots of attention are getting lots of attention because they are inside platform companies that have been hiring wildly for years. But if you take a sort of cold-blooded look at employment in the United States, unemployment is shockingly low. I live in Maryland, where the unemployment rate is like 2.4%. That's nothing. So I don't think we need to be sounding alarm bells yet about layoffs, in part because those people being laid off inside these platform companies can go get work inside startups, the likes of which I invest in. And what we're seeing inside these startups is They are using AI in a way that is enabling them to not have to build their headcount too fast. So this is enabling the growth of really lean startups. So I think it's actually helping the startup ecosystem a little bit more so than some of the flabby-year-old platform companies that are doing some of these layoffs.
Alec, we were just speaking with Kai-Fu Lee a little bit earlier, who does feel that there's going to be a limitation on these big tech juggernauts that have been so ahead of the curve in AI development thus far, but it's going to lead to cannibalization of their own business models, and ultimately they're not going to be AI first. Are all of the companies that you're backing now ultimately AI first companies, or are they having to reestablish themselves, rethink about their headcount, rethink about the way in which their business model works, for example, like a Grammarly?
Yeah, so not all of them are necessarily AI first. For a lot of them, AI will be a new tool in their toolkit. The most exciting examples of an AI first company, the one that leaps to mind, I'm speaking to you today from Italy, and I spent today visiting with a company that we're backing in Switzerland called Kyan Health, Kyan. And they are using AI to provide mental health services into big companies. And they're doing so AI first. Something like this wouldn't have been possible, providing enabling mental health services to tens of thousands of employees that has a human component on the back end, but has an AI component on the front end. That kind of thing wouldn't have been possible years ago. And so this ultimately, I think, is showing what AI can do to help the world a little bit.
So there's a lot of good points in there, actually. One of the things that's more or less shocking, well, I've been saying it as part of stuff too, where, hey, a lot of these layoffs are coming from overhiring. Around when it was COVID time and right before early COVID, before COVID happened, a lot of these big engineering jobs and stuff that I was talking about, they were overhiring. So all last year, when we seen them doing cuts, it was because of all the overhiring and overstaff that they all had. And for the unemployment rate to be that low, maybe it's not that hard for experienced developers, engineers, and other people in the tech world to get another job. But one thing that I can say it's hard for is newcomers coming into the job and stuff. Maybe like as he said, you can go into startups and things. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's correct. You can go into startups. Maybe more new engineers should start off at startups instead of trying to, especially if you're not landing those big jobs out the gate. Maybe you should go to the startups and try to build up your resume, build up your experience, take the lower pay cuts and stuff like that over at those startups and see what you can get out of them.
What you have here is
and see what you're able to get out of those companies, because you might be better off just getting a job if you're a new engineer that way, because there is a lot of competition as far as getting positions at these other companies. Speaking of which, my friends just went to a career fair, and they all applied for certain companies off of Handshake, based off our school. Handshake gives suggestions for the college that we went to and things, and they all applied for a certain position. And on the same day, they all got an email from the same recruiter talking about the next level interview. So now they're all competing with each other for the same job. Like that's just how it is. They're competing for each other for the same job. And how many roles are they going to fill off of that? Just one. Just one. So it is highly competitive out here. And imagine all the people who don't hear anything back. As I talked about one of my friends that it's hard for them to get jobs, and he's been applying for months and months and trying to develop more projects to show for these cases. But one thing that I'm worried about his case is he wants to be a front end or full stack developer, and a lot of the front end stuff will be able to get done by AI very soon. Like a lot of front end dev work, you might need a maintainer who specifically uses AI to develop these new designs and UI, UX and everything, but he has to be able to grow and develop in that way to keep your job and be the one who's more likely to keep that job when that new invention comes around, because they even talked about these tech companies going AI first and getting rid of their own workforce and stuff like that, doing that. But no, if it's used as a tool, like the way I was just saying, and that developer is able to use it as a proper tool to help them, it makes them way more valuable. And that's what people got to know. And that's just how stuff's going to turn out. That's how things just are out here, and how things are continuously going to be. They're continuously going to just be like that. So let me know what you guys think down below, because and let me know if you're having troubles getting jobs and positions as well, or if you've recently been laid off, because it is tough out here. No matter what percentage he says on layoffs and things, it is tough. I could only imagine how hard it is for somebody who loses their job in that kind of way and things, but that's just the society that we're in right now, and that's all I can say around that topic.